This is our lesson on creating walks and drives. This is our lesson on creating walks and drives from a mesh. First of all, what we'll do is we'll take a look at this site in the 3D window. As you can see, we have a project on a gently sloping site, and we've yet to put in our walks and drives. So we'll go back to the first floor, and as you can see, I've traced in, or I've drawn in the areas where I want walks and drives with polylines and lines. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the existing mesh, and I'll click on a node and select drag in the pet palette. I will move it a little bit away, and we'll click on the control key so that we're making a copy, and move it right back into position. So now I've got a copy of that sitting right on top of the existing copy. So we'll go into Mesh Selection Settings on the context menu with a right click. Now we're going to change this to a brick herringbone pattern because that's what we want for our walks and drives. We'll link those materials. Select OK. Now I'll go back into the 3D window, show all in 3D. Deselect the orbit tool, and I'll select that mesh. We'll go back into mesh selection settings. The mesh height is currently 3 feet. I think we'll make that, say, 4 inches. Select OK. Take another look. Now we've got a 4-inch mesh following the contours of the site. I'm going to select that mesh one more time. I'm going to click on a node on the corner here. Select Elevate from the pet palette. And I'm going to bring that down, say, 1 inch. Now I'm going to go back into our floor plan. And what we want to do is we want to subtract the areas of the brick pavers that we're not going to need. So what we'll do is we'll select that mesh again. That's the wrong mesh. We want to make sure we have the right one. We can go back up here into our info box. Now we've got the herringbone mesh selected. So we'll start subtracting the areas that we don't need. We'll do that by clicking on a node, and from the pet palette we'll select subtract from polygon. And we'll take we'll start taking out the areas we're not going to use. Again, make sure we have the right mesh selected. We're getting closer. Alright, that looks good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into our solid element operations. So we go to Design, Solid Element Operations. With our herringbone paver mesh selected, we're going to use that as the operator element. So we'll select Get Operator Elements. Now we'll select the rest of the landscape mesh and select Get Target Element. Now what we want to do is we want to subtract with an upwards extrusion and select Execute. So we'll close out of that and we'll go into our 3D view, show all in 3D. Okay, we'll try that again. Okay, we've got our mesh with the herringbone brick selected, and we'll go into solid element operations. And we'll use that as our operator element. We'll select the rest of the site and use that as the target element. We'll subtract with an upwards extrusion. Click on Execute. We can close out of that and go into the 3D window. And now we have our driveway and pavers put into the site, following the contours of the site.